Okay. Susie, pass me the phone. Okay,
All right.
so we're on.
Please, everybody mute.
What was that?
No, I wanted everybody to mute except you.
Yeah, but
Okay.
the problem is before somebody had their iPhone right next to the Ernie. I don't know who it is, but somebody's got their iPhone right next to their iPad, and that thing is causing a lot of static.
Yeah, it's feedback. Hey,
Yeah.
Kenny, there's another Cassie Alter out there. There's two of them?
Yes. Did you see the email?
Yeah, she was upset.
I hope so.
You have two wives, Kenny?
All right, we're recording, guys.
Okay. Kuf Lamed Ches, 138. Elam Rabaya midrabanani. Shelo yaseh kederech she'osa b'chol. What's the problem? How can you say it's a chayav chad? We talked about hanging that net over, to pass the wine through. It's not midaraisa. In fact, Abaye says midrabanan. Shelo yaseh kederech she'osa b'chol. This is important, Rashi. Where the Mishnah doesn't allow us to do it on Shabbos. Why? Because it's something that you do during the week. And it's a tircha. It's something that you do during the week, so they forbid it for Shabbos. Abaye summarized the various stringencies of our Mishnah. Hanod, that's like a jug that they would put fluid in. Vamishameres, and this wine decanter. Kila, which is like a canopy over a bed. Kise galin, this is some kind of chair that was like disassembled, like a rector set chair. Lo yasa, you shouldn't do all these things on Shabbos because of uvda d'chol. V'im also potter v'loser, but if you did it, it's only rabbinic. It's only rabbinic. But ahale keva lo yasa, you should not put up a permanent tent. V'im also chayiv chatas, if you did so, chayiv chatas because of bone. Aval mita, if you put a bed, the kise or a chair, truskel, like a basket, the isla, there's some kind of device that was put over like a toilet to help you sit there. Even on those cases, it's like you're building like a tent in a sense, because underneath these things, you could view them as a tent. Mutter l'tosa l'chatchila. You're allowed to set these up l'chatchila. They've already been prepared from Erev Shabbos, so they're not muktzah, and it's not creating a tent. Ve'ein noslin l'tluya b'Shabbos. If someone had suspended one of these nets to pour wine through from Erev Shabbos, you wouldn't be allowed to pour the wine on Shabbos. What if you did it and you collected sediment? It's an Isser Deraisa. I understand. Is there such a thing that you can go from chiyuv chatas to mutar lechatchila? I mean, that's from one extreme to the other. So maski for Rav Yosef, alam Allah, why not? We have other examples where one person is chayiv chatas, the other person is matir. The case of Ir Shel Zohav. This was a jewelry piece that looked like Yerushalayim. Rav Meir mechayiv chatas. He felt it was not a tachshit, and if you carried it out on Shabbos, you're chayiv for carrying. Rav Eliezer shori lechatchila. He held it was a tachshit, and it's completely permitted. Mahi, what's this case? Tanya, lo seitze isha be'ir shel zav. A woman should not go out of the house into Rosh Hashanah wearing this ear shozov. Im yotzo chayev es chatas di Reb Meir. The chachamim ma'im lo seitzei im yotzo ptura. So the chachamim also are goizer, but it's not chayev chatas. Comes Rabbi Yezer Amar yotzi yishav ear shozov lechatchila. So the Gemara says even in our Mishnah, so we see that there's precedence from going from chiyuv chatas to being mutar lechatchila. Normally, by me, some Rabbi Yezer the Reb Meir koi. Rabbi Yezer is not responding to Reb Meir who said chatas. So he's not. You can't use that as an example for going from one extreme to an extreme because he's basically just debating with the Rabbanon who say there's potter of a loss, and he says no, it's permitted. Okay, so someone who poured his wine to collect these sediments, what hasra do you give him? What warning do you give him? My masrin beit. Rabba Amar Mishum Boirer. The malacha is Boirer. You selected bad from the good. Rav Zera Omer Mishum Meraked. Meraked is sifting, like when you sift flour of its impurities. Amar Rabba Kavosi Didi Mistavra. It's more sensitive as Boirer. Ma darker shel Boirer noitel oichel u'meniachah psoilas. You take the food and you leave the psoilas. So here as well, afachanami. You take the wine noitel oichel u'meniachah psoilas. So it's more analogous to Boirer. Amar Zera Kavosi Didi Mistavra. No, my svara of Meraked is more logical. Ma darker shel Meraked psoilas milmal boichel milmata. If you have like a sieve and you pour flour through it, right? So the impurity stays on top and the good flour goes on the bottom. So that same thing is happening here. The wine is leaking through the net and the sediment is staying on top. So each gives rise to their own sheet. Tani Rami Bar Yecheskel. Talis kfula lo yaseh. You shouldn't, hang your coat over a rope, right? To make like a tent, like an A-shaped tent. Im also potter of a losser. If you did it, you only violated chacham. But if it was resting on a tight string or rope, so then you'd be able to spread it out l'chatchil. It's not usher at all.
Yeah, Ernie, you know how kids sometimes they're playing.
Because he says moisif al oil aroyu, because there you're just adding to already a temporary tent that's there.
Yeah,
Go ahead,
Ernie?
Aaron. Yes.
Yeah, how sometimes kids play and they make a tent, they make a fort out of shmata and pillows and stuff. Is that similar to what they're saying here?
Yeah, that's what they're saying. But there you got to use stakes or string. Now, if it was hanging there from Erev Shabbos, you could do it. You could spread it over those strings on Shabbos if the ropes and strings were there already. But remember, the kids take pillows.
Yeah,
that's not bone.
Not the same. Okay.
That would not be bone.
Okay.
What about a canopy over a bed? What about forget about a canopy? You can't even a bed is usher. Now what do you mean mita mau? Af kila muteres kilo mita mau. If the kila is permitted, what's this kilo mita? Amarle kila asura umita muteres. No, the canopy is usher. The bed is permitted. So what's going on? Loy kasha. Hadikamer af mita asura kidikamarnoi, like the people in Karmanoi. Rashi says it's like a rector set. You undo it and put it back together. And that would be a problem. Because if the string was already there from Erev Yontif, Erev Shabbos, it's not a problem. Because it's already there. You just added. Kila asur mita muteres kedidon. Right? Our mita, just because you have room underneath the bed, that's not an oil. But if you're going to assemble a kila on top of your bed on Shabbos, wasn't prepared from before, that would be prohibited. On Rav Yosef Chazina l'kila dve Ravuna de me'urta negidu. We saw the canopies of Rav Huna. They were already spread out from the night before. And then in the morning, negidu, they took it down. Umitzafra chavita ramya. So you put it up again. So they were allowed to take it down and put it up as long as the strings were prepared from Erev Shabbos. Says the Gemara of Mishum Avchia Vilon, a curtain, mutter l'tosa, mutter l'foker. You can set it up, you can take it down. That, for example, that's like a partition between a room. Like you want to make a mechitza, separate a room into two. That's not an oil because it's side to side. It's got to be ke'en gag. It's got to have a roof to be an oil. Amar Shmuel Mishum Avchia. Kilas chasani mutter l'tosa, mutter l'foker. It was a special a wedding bed. It was not similar to other canopies. Rashi says, "Hila arba raglaim." It's like a poster bed. It had 4 posts. Excuse me. Regular canopies had that, but for shel chasanim agabi naklitin she'enem ela shnayim. It was more like an A-frame. It's like it just had 2 sticks, and then you put like a blanket over it, and it was like an A-frame. It doesn't have a roof. It comes to a point like this. It comes to a point. It doesn't have a gag of at least a tefach. That's only if it comes to a point. If you do it so that there is at least a tefach straight area up on top, then it would be prohibited. And even if it doesn't have a gag tefach, it's got to be a pretty narrow A-frame. That it's got to get to 3 tefachim within 1 tefach. If it's wider than that, then it would be prohibited. If the slope has at least a tefach coming down from the A-frame, that looks like a tent. It would be prohibited. It cannot overhang the bed by a tefach. If it overhangs the bed, it would be prohibited as well. If you wear a hat with a wide brim, it's not considered an ohel. If it's a brim that's greater than a tefach, that's considered an ohel. Let's say you wear a cape and you spread out the cape. That you're going to be chayiv, like for an ohel, you're wearing this. So the Gemara says, whether the hat fits tightly or not. That means if it doesn't fit tightly, we're afraid that the wind's going to blow it off, and then you're going to carry Rosh Hashanah. Say something nice on Shabbos Tik Halacha that was said in the name of Rav. Tarti b'Shabbos v'chadi b'Torah. 2 regarding Shabbos, 1 regarding Torah. Shalach lei. He sent to the back the following. This jug that you fill up with wine or liquids and you close it with some kind of string, So you're allowed to open and close that on Shabbos. It's not a problem of ohel. That which we said over there, it's potter of a loss, didn't have a string. Here it's got a string, so it's prepared, so it's less like an ohel. That's if it is held by two people. That means it can be if it can be tightened by one person with this string, it's usher. But if it's two people, it would be permitted. This canopy, even with 10 people, it's usher, because someone's going to tighten it. And by tightening it, it's too much like binyan. Irich maihi. What's the other halacha? The Tanya. An oven or stove that one of its legs broke, mutter l'taltala. It's still considered a kli. It's not muktzah. Shtayim osir. Once it loses two legs, it's osir. We don't even allow it to be touched, even if it only broke one leg, because you might come to fix it, and it'll be osir as mitakin kli. What was the statement regarding Torah that Rav said? Torah is going to be forgotten. Shenemar v'hifla Hashem esma koischa. Hashem is going to be mafle your wounds. What's this haflozu any idea about? Torah. So hafla refers to speaking. Umafli la'asos. The bracha of Asher Yotzar shows that the whole purpose of our creation is that we can speak. And the ultimate speaking is Torah. Torah Bonan. Kishenichnas Rabbi Seir Lakerem biyavna amru. Atida Torah shetishtachach miYisrael. Torah will be forgotten. Shenemar hinei yamim ba'inu Hashem Elokim v'ishlachti ra'av ba'aretz. And I will send a famine. Lo ra'av la'lechem v'lo tzama la'mayim ki im lishmo es divrei Hashem. The famous song was taken from this Gemara. We will not be hungry for bread or thirsty for water, but we'll have a famine to hear the words of Hashem. Uksiv. V'na'u miyam ad yam. They will bump around from ocean to ocean, mitzafon vad mizrach, from the north until the east. Yishotu levakesh es dvar Hashem lo yimtzo. They will surf, looking to try to find the Dvar Hashem, and they won't find it. Dvar Hashem zu halacha. Dvar Hashem ze akates. Dvar Hashem zu nevuah. They will need halacha lemaisa, and they won't know it. They will want to know about when the Mashiach is coming, and they will lose nevuah. Uma yeshotu levakesh es dvar Hashem amru atida isha shetito kikar shel truma. A woman will take a loaf of truma. She will go to all the yeshivas, Leda im tmeahi v'im toiri, to find out is his Torah, is it Tomei. Ve'ein mevim im toiri v'im tmeahi. And they won't be able to give her an answer. Afraid the Gemara, well, what's so hard about this? If a sheretz touches it, it's going to become Tomei. What's the kasha? No, we want to know, for example, if an avatuma touches something, it becomes a rishon. If the rishon touches something, it becomes a sheni. We won't be expert enough to say whether it's a rishon or sheni. What do you mean? That's not a problem either. It's a mishnah. It's not. Or you find a dead sheretz inside an oven. Hapas shebesocha shniya. And the sheretz is not touching the bread becomes a sheni. because a tanur tchila. The tanur, the sheretz is a av. The tanur becomes a rishon, and the pas that's in the tanur becomes a shem. So the Gemara says, no, mistapkaluhu. There was a suffix. Had the amar ravada bar l'rava. Lichzei hay tanur command mali tuma, because some people held that since there was a sheretz inside the oven, they view the oven as being full of the sheretz, and therefore it's like the bread, it becomes a rishona. We didn't say hay tanur command mali tuma. We don't say it's the Tanya. Yachol Yehu kol hakelim mitamim ba'avir kli cheres. So if you dangle a sheretz in the airspace of a clay kli, of an earthenware kli, so even though the sheretz doesn't touch the walls of the kli, everything inside the kli becomes tummy. So I might think all kelim are mitami through airspace. Food can become tummy through this airspace business, but in kelim mitami ba'avir kli cheres. But a kli is not mitami through the avir kli cheres. So therefore, the space of the oven is not considered kemoli tumah. Otherwise, the kelim would be tummy as well. Tanya Rav Shimon Yochai Omer Chas v'Sholem shetishkachach Torah Yisrael. He disagrees with this whole future speaking about Klal Yisrael forgetting Torah. He says Chas v'Sholem shenemar kilot tishkach mi kilot tishakach mi pizano. Torah will not be forgotten. Elamani mekayim yishotu levakesh dvar Hashem lo yimtzou. So what do I mean? They're going to look for a dvar Hashem, they won't find it. Shlo yimtzimtzu halacha brura. They won't find halacha, Rashi says, with reasons without machlokes. There'll be machlokes ben chachamim regarding halacha.
Shikoyach.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.